Good morning, gang. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is for you. Welcome to today's altcoin update. First and foremost, let's start by saying nothing discussed is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is just for educational purposes only. And now we've got that out of the way. Today's altcoin request, we're going to be looking at our ETH and Link. If you guys want an altcoin covering next week, then either leave a comment down below or follow us over on Twitter. And make sure you respond to our post that we always put out on a Monday asking what altcoins you guys want charting. Just as a heads up, make sure they are altcoins that are on TradingView so I can chart them. If they are on some random decks or they are a microcap, I'm not going to be charting them because I'm not going to start promoting microcaps on this channel because I don't do paid shills. Now that's out of the way. Here we go. ETH. So this is the old blue range. You guys, if you've been watching our channel for a while, you've known we've been looking at this range for a very, very long time. Since then, obviously, we've had a bit of a breakout and a push up. And now we're ranging once again. So, first and foremost, you've got to take into account consolidation above resistance is not necessarily the healthiest of signs, but we know that because it's not looking the strongest across the board. Now, anyone that understands how I trade and that's within our group knows that an easy way to gauge how strong ETH is to look at it against Bitcoin. So in that chart, you will find the clues to know whether ETH is likely to go up or down. But let's talk about where we stopped right now. So first and foremost, Fibonacci. From the internal high, not the ultimate high, the internal high, down to the low, drag that across, and we can see here that we've come into the golden pocket. So it's a natural place to reject. Now we know that this is a high time frame one, because obviously this is going up from 3,600 down to the lows are 800 or 900, for easy numbers. So we've got a high time frame golden pocket now, very similar to how Bitcoin reacted here. So Bitcoin came up into the macro golden pocket and had a rejection. It's often to be expected. Now, one thing alone is not enough confluence for me, but when you're talking about a macro golden pocket, likelihood is you're going to have a rejection or some sort of consolidation. Okay, so does this mean it's a rejection and we're just rolling over and that's it? It's 99? No. This could be a rejection, consolidation, and then we have another push up. Okay, so that's something we've got to take into account. So what we need to do now is we need to decide what are the next major levels that we want to trade. So I'm going to move this Fibonacci now to the ultimate high, down to the low, and I'm going to bring on a volume profile. Knock this back out of log so we can see. Now, with this volume profile, what we can see here. First and foremost, let's talk upside. So if the low is in and we start to make our way up, once again, the ETH BTC chart is going to be your clue to whether this is likely to happen or not. First and foremost, we've got to contend with the highs, which is coming in around 2,700, give or take. If we do get above that, then the next level that I'm going to be looking up towards is around the 3K level. Now, once again, 3K level, we do have, as you can see here, just before getting to this sticky zone above, okay, the edge in this picture is the value area high. And again, it's a round number. People like round numbers. So if we do continue up, then the first region I'm going to be looking at is around the 3K mark. So if you are long from lower, 3K might be an interesting place to skim off some profits. If we get up to the 3K mark and we start to show some weakness, then we may have a lower time frame play to the downside. Maybe as a hedge position. However, the stronger level, in my opinion, is higher. The stronger level is coming up into this macro golden pocket, and you can see here with the high volume node. Now, if we zoom out a little bit more, we can see this a little bit more clearly. Once it updates, we've got this high volume node here. So if we do manage to continue up without any pullback at the current highs and without any major pullback at 3K, then I'm going to be looking up around 3.3 up towards 3.5. Now, if within this sticky zone, we start to see some weakness to the downside, then I will be looking for hedge position short. Now, does this mean I'm just going to be leaving stink bids up here? Shorts, limit sell orders up here? No, it doesn't. Because what happens if price comes up here and it just goes straight through? Which it can do. Because nobody knows what's going to happen. Anyone that tells you on a YouTube video or on Twitter that they know what's going to happen next is talking out of their ass. Okay? Nobody knows. So my plan will be, if price comes up to this zone, what happens? I then start to zoom into a lower term time frame. Do I start to see some bearish absorption on CBD? do I start to see a lot of aggressive market longs opening up, but price fails to move any higher? Well, in that case, then I'll be looking for short positions. If I don't see any weakness in this region, then I will sit back and let it go higher. If we can flip this zone, this 3,600-ish zone, then we can start looking towards 4K. Once again, round numbers. ETH loves round numbers. If we start clearing that, then we can start talking about new highs. But we need to get above this first, okay? So this is the major region on the chart. There's major resistance for now. Now, what happens if this current high that we've got is the high? Where do we go from here? Well, we need to look at the next most likely regions below us. So what we're going to do, zoom in like this, and we're going to see. So first and foremost, if we roll over lower, what we can see here is we've got a lot of wicks into this zone. Okay, a lot of wicks into this zone. What does that tell us? That tells us liquidity here. Because anyone that's been long in this, trying to catch all these wicks, I've got the stop losses in this zone. So if price starts to roll over lower, then we can see here, within this, there's going to be liquidity. So if we come down and backtest this old range and start to see some strength in this region, then we've potentially got a long. And all that means is we've had a range, we've broken out, we've backtested the range, and then we can look for higher prices. Now, once again, does that mean all-time highs? No, it doesn't. It just means up to our next sticky zone, because that's how we trade. We trade level to level. Okay. Now, if we get no reaction in this zone, and we start to see acceptance back into the old range, well, that's not going to look very healthy, is it? Let's be honest, if we get acceptance back into this old range, then realistically, I'm going to start looking back down towards this point of control, roughly around 1600. And if you are bullish overall on crypto and on ETH, then realistically, you want to see a bullish reaction in this zone. Because if you don't get a bullish reaction there, then we'll start looking at much lower prices. So that's it. Once again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly where price is going to go, because nobody knows. All we can do is use a high time frame, like the daily, the weekly, the monthly, to plan out areas on the chart where we're interested in doing business. If and when price comes into those areas, we then zoom into a lower term time frame and see if it gives us an entry trigger. If it gives us an entry trigger, great, we take the trade. If it doesn't give us an entry trigger, we sit back and we wait patiently for our next zone. That's how a trader works. Okay, so to the top side, as we said, current highs 2.7. Next up, 3K, round number, big psychological level. If we start getting above that, then we can start looking up at this macro golden pocket between 3.3 and 3.6 for easy numbers. Okay, so the next major zone. So that's ETH. Next, Link. Again, we'll leave this volume profile on because it's going to help us. So first and foremost, why have we stopped here and rejected? Well, quite simply, again, we use the same sort of style. TA, we're going to use this internal pull here. From here down to the lows, we can see we came up into a golden pocket. Now, is this a major golden pocket? No, not in my opinion. The major golden pocket to be aware of is the next one up. So this is a major pivot on a high time frame. Okay, this is just an internal. Now, with it being just an internal pivot, does that mean that price is going to go up and it's not a major level? No. It could reject from where we are right now and roll over and make new lows. Once again, nobody knows what's going to happen. So don't talk out your ass. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the upside. If we continue higher, bear in mind, the trend is still up. We are still making higher highs and higher lows. So if we are to continue this trend and continue up, then the next major zone I'm going to be looking at is $25. Once again, we've got high volume node, high time frame, golden pocket. Psychologically, it's a good round number, $25. So if we come up to this zone and start to show weakness, then yes, we might have a head short position. If we get no weakness here, then we can look for higher prices. And likelihood is if we start to clear 25, 26, then the next major one is going to be around this 707 and around this $28.50. Why? Well, because we've got liquidity just below it, just above it. So therefore, if we do come up, we start to range and then start to show some weakness, then there we go. Once again, we likely see some sort of pullback after taking the highs. This is something that happens very, very frequently in all financial assets. Now look at this. Look, we'll put a pivot on this. We can see here the first reaction above this. We come up and we drop back down. We've still continued up. Okay, what happened to the next one? Well, the next one is where we are right now. What's happened? We've come up, we've come back down. This is what happens when you get towards major pivots. So if we start coming back up to this major pivot up here, likely it is, come up, we pop back down. Okay, major pivots. And when you're tying those major pivots to key levels like Fibonacci or volume, then it gives you confluence. This gives your ideas more of a chance. Okay, so you get the higher probability trade setups. Now, what happens if the high is in and we start to roll over from here? Well, if we start to roll over from here, first and foremost, we have to be aware that we've got quite clearly a range just below us. And you can see here on the volume profile, you can see all the volume is concentrated around the center. So if we start coming back down here and we don't get a very simple back test and move off, and we start to get acceptance back into this range, and first and foremost, I'll be looking back down towards the Q. And we can see here that's going to be the point of control for this mini range. If we start to lose that point of control, then realistically, we start to look back down at range lows. Now, at range lows, do we just get a nice simple liquidity grab? Potentially into this zone here, so we might actually come a little bit lower before reclaiming this. See some strength, then we've got long triggers. And once again, we're just playing this range. Eventually, one side will give way. Now, what happens if we just blast straight through this? It starts coming down. And we get no reaction in this sticky zone down here around $11. Well, if we don't get any reaction around $11, then sadly, we're going to be looking at lower prices. So we're going to be looking back down at this old range that we had. That's a very nice range to trade. I'm going to drop this down one more to there, and we can see here. So let's just hide this. Still have no idea why this is still on my chart. So if we start to come lower and we break through this current consolidation that's just below us, we start to lose this. Then, realistically, once again, if the $10, $11 mark doesn't hold, then we start to look back down at this range high. Now, at this range high, if you're bullish, ideally, you want to see a sign of strength here. If you do get that sign of strength, you get some local change of structure, you get some bullish CVD absorption. And what does that mean? Again, it means if people are aggressively market selling this because they're looking for continuation, but price doesn't move lower, then you know that there's limit orders down here that are just absorbing those market sells ready to push price higher. Then if you get that trigger, then we can look for longs. If we don't get that trigger and we get acceptance back into this range, this is not going to look very healthy. Likely for the whole market, but especially for Link. So then we can start looking back down towards this EQ and this point of control at roughly around 750. And anyone that's longed any of this breakout without taking any profits gives it all back and likely ends up in a loss. Okay. Now, does that mean that this is more probable to happen? No, it doesn't. All we know is the zones on the chart that we want to trade. If price comes into those zones and gives us the setup we're looking for, then we take a trade. But right now, quite frankly, I don't care if price goes to 25 or if price goes down to 750. It makes no difference. All I know are the levels in between where I want to take new trades. Okay, hopefully you've learned something today. If you have, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And until next time, gang, as you were, bye-bye.